here. Oh, there we go,
Got
ladies.
it. Got it. Yeah.
And also potentially gentlemen who are listening back on this recording. So the first community group chat, I've been meaning to do these for a while, to be fair, but again, it's just one of them getting time to fit it in people's diaries. But the fact that we're recording it makes it useful for other people. So Lisa, you was the only gal to ask a question. So hit me up with your question again, and then I might have done a presentation.
Okay, so I would like to know hints and tips for eating out because obviously we're all going into the festive season. I particularly am in a fat loss phase. So,
Yeah.
how can I still go out and participate whilst also still maintaining what my goal is at the moment?
You
What can
can't.
we do?
You're not allowed.
You're not, well, okay, I'll see you. Bye.
No, it's definitely a relevant subject, and I feel like at this time of year, it's starting, isn't it? Silly season is
Yeah,
starting. Everybody's
literally.
starting those social occasions like now. And I
Yeah.
feel like over the past 5 years, it's getting earlier and earlier. Like everybody wants to go out for food. Usually, these social occasions are revolving around food, and there's definitely ways of working around it. So, hopefully, Lisa, being a coach yourself, you already know half of the stuff that we're going to talk through. Um, but it definitely matters what the goal is at this moment in time. So, let me, without further ado,
Here's one I prepared earlier.
here's one I prepared about 10 seconds ago. Let's share the screen one sec. Let me know if you can see what is going on.
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Yes. Present that. Professional, here we go. Hey. Okay, so managing social occasions while still achieving your goals. That's pretty much like what you said, wasn't it, Lisa?
Yeah, absolutely.
And for yourself, obviously, you're the only person who asked the question, so I want to centre it around the goal that you're on at the moment, which is fat loss, okay? So with fat loss, we both know who are on the call right now. For fat loss to occur, we need to be in a calorie deficit, don't we?
We do.
We need to be managing calories coming in and calories going out. And for obviously social occasions, that is going to be a little bit of an estimate, even though we might be making decisions to kind of minimize the damage, so to speak. So, a couple of considerations. So, the first one is even if your goal is a fat loss goal, what I would be thinking is, all right, okay, is my goal right now for fat loss time specific? Because there might be
Mm.
people watching this who are in a fat loss goal where they're going on a holiday at a certain day or they're getting
Yeah.
ready for a photo shoot, or is the goal ongoing? So am I losing fat to be happy in my body ongoing? So Lisa, answer the question. Is your goal specific or is it ongoing?
It's ongoing. I mean, to be fair, we have given it a specific time frame, but I think we've done that just so it kind of has some kind of parameter to it. But for
Yeah.
me, it's not specific for any particular reason because I feel like I've been there and I've done that. And I think there is an element of longevity to this. So
Yeah.
for me, it is always about how I feel in my own skin and how I feel going forward. I am really social. I know we are going into silly season, but I tend to socialize a lot anyway.
Mhm.
And I kind of always want to be in a phase where I'm pretty much only ever kind of 6 weeks from what I would class as being like kind of optimal for my physique.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's easier to manage than other times. And I do feel it's a little bit more difficult eating out at this time of the year than it is in the summer because there's a lot more salads on the menu and things. And I feel like the produce is not quite there for that element in this time.
Yeah.
So that's why I question specifically.
100%. So that's the
Mm.
first consideration. And
Yeah.
for 90% of people, that's going to be the same as well. So it's going to be an ongoing. So I want you to keep that in the back of your mind when we're
Mhm.
thinking about the actual social occasions themselves. All right. It'll
Yeah.
make more sense as I go through. Just bear with me. So we also have to consider who you are. All right. So are we a 50 kilo female, say, for instance, who's eating 1,500 calories to diet? you're not going to have the same flexibility, so to speak, as a 90-kilo male when it comes to
Mhm.
social occasions. There's just
Yeah.
physiological differences between all of you guys that we just
Mhm.
can't get around, all right?
Yeah.
So you might be somebody who can diet on high calories. You're going to have more flexibility, and that's obviously going to play a part in that social occasion. And if fat loss
Mhm.
is still the goal, that's the consideration we need to make. And
Yeah.
then what does the rest of your social calendar look like? So obviously from what you've just said, it's pretty fucking rammed. Um,
So
so
basically, I've got an opening in January.
I think you're the same as well, Alana, aren't you? Um, yeah, I just don't have any friends, so mine's pretty no, I'm only joking. Um, so we have to consider what the rest of the social calendar looks like. If you've got 5 meals, parties out in the next 2 or 3 weeks, you're gonna have to make certain decisions, as
Mhm.
opposed to if you've just got one social occasion coming up in the next couple of months, yeah? So they're
Yeah.
going to look slightly different. Again, if the goal is fat loss. So the key
Mhm.
thing with that, and coming on to that, is the expectation matching the action? And with
Mhm.
every single one of you guys, and even the guys watching it back, as long as your expectation matches your actions, it does not matter. So what I mean
Yeah.
by that is if your goal or if your expectation for a certain week is to lose fat, but we're going out, and my scientific term there, if we're going out balls deep every weekend, but the expectation is to lose body fat, then that's when the frustration will arise, okay? And coming back to the first consideration, if the goal is ongoing fat loss, does it matter? And this is a rhetorical question, or you can answer it. Does it matter if 1 week we don't lose body fat?
No, as long as you're expecting that. I think that's the key word, isn't it? Is the expectation. So I've already, from my perspective, I have 2 nights out this week. I have a meal out on the Friday, and then I have a night out for Halloween on the Saturday. There's going to be dancing for one of those nights, so I know I'm going to be. I will probably dance for 4 or 5 hours, so I know I'll burn God knows how many calories that night. And I know that when I go out on the Friday, I will try to make sensible decisions. But then we also know when alcohol is thrown into the mix, you don't always go down that route, best laid plans and all that.
Yeah.
So it's not that every week. So I've already in my head thinking about Monday's check-in. I'm thinking, well, realistically, the best I can hope for is probably a maintain. But then on the back of a period week, I'll probably have a loss on the scales anyway. But it probably won't be a true representation of actual fat loss.
Yeah.
So I've kind of got that at the back of my mind already.
Yeah. She's already one step ahead of the game. And we'll
Yeah.
come on to what you can actually do.
Yeah.
I think I've put it on the next slide actually. All right. So before we get to that, some people
Mhm.
might already be aware of this and some people might not. But I'm going to come at it at a different spin because you might have heard, or it might be completely new knowledge to you, that we have to consume, this is science, in excess of 3,000 calories above our maintenance to gain 1 pound of body fat. So this is
Okay.
actually a lot easier than what you think. All right.
Yeah.
So everybody thinks, oh my God, all right, I've got this leeway. I got to eat at least 3,000 calories above my maintenance to gain at least 1 pound of body fat. Yeah.
Mhm.
What actually comes on the scales, not just body fat? Let's think about what comes on the scales after we go on a night out. The scale weight's
Well,
going
it's
to
obvious.
shoot up
Yeah.
because
100%.
we're holding water. Our body's
Yeah.
probably inflamed. We're a little bit stressed out. Our sleep's been affected. If you're
Yeah.
anything like me, my digestion gets affected for a good few days, especially when
Yeah.
alcohol's thrown in the mix. So the scale
Yeah.
weight shoots up. But we know
Yeah.
that a good amount of that isn't going to be body fat. We just know that, okay?
Yeah.
But if we break down 3,000 calories, I don't know about you, but I could smash 3,000 calories in one day. Yeah?
Easy. Yeah.
Especially drinking like porn star martinis, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And actually to lose 1 pound of actual body fat is really, really hard, isn't it, guys? Because we've been through that process.
Yeah.
So to
Yeah.
undo that is quite easy and it's easier said than done. All right. So don't think it isn't, especially when you're making these decisions, like you said, Lisa, when alcohol's thrown in the mix, because we all know, yeah, get the Jaeger bombs going, gals. We all know about that one. So let's think about some of the things that we can do, and I'll elaborate on these. And these are already things that you'll know about, Lisa, you'll know about Alana when we was in a fat loss phase for you as well. Calorie
Yeah.
banking across the week. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is only going to be useful if we already know that we've got a social occasion coming up, those ones that we've got planned in. Yeah.
Mhm.
So this doesn't mean starving yourself for the full week leading up to it, but we could probably pull calories down a little bit because
Yeah.
we have to be sensible about it. We have to manage our calories in versus calories out. And if we
Yeah.
know we've got a social occasion coming up, we can pull our calories down. As a rough estimate for most people, again, it's going to be individual, but a rough estimate, 150 to 200 calories down a day is going to
Yeah.
give us a little bit of a buffer for the social occasion. One of the massive ones which people don't do enough is increasing your output. You're quite lucky with me, guys, because I don't all give you loads and loads of steps. I don't give you all loads and loads of cardio. So I already know for a fact that every single person watching this can increase their output if they've got a social occasion. Yeah?
Yeah.
There's no point worrying about, okay, I've burned this amount of calories doing this on this machine and I've burnt this amount of calories doing steps. It's all going to be an estimate. There's no machine that can tell you how many calories you've burned or working it out as an equation. It's basically, I've increased my output a little bit, I've decreased my calories a little bit. Let's go and have that social occasion and let's see what happens. That's basically what it is for that. We're mitigating some of the damage.
Yeah.
We can also reduce our intake on the day. So that's a bit of a given. So if we know we've got a big meal out in the evening, going to reduce what we're having during that day. We're not going to have our 3 meals before we go and have a big meal out on a night out. Having meals prepped for the day after, this is one that some people miss. So it's not usually the actual social occasion that's the issue, especially when alcohol's thrown in the mix. It's the day after. Yeah, how many times have you got Domino's on speed dial the next day? Yeah, if we had our meals already prepped, then that could hopefully help that situation a little bit. And also being mindful at the event, because you can do all these 4 things that I've already said, but all of that doesn't mean shit if scientifically we're going balls to the walls again. Yeah. You can soon undo a week's worth of hard work. Again, if the goal and the expectation is fat loss, I'm not saying that has to be the same. That has to be the goal all the time, just by having those 10 cocktails and whatever you're eating. So I'm sure you two have experienced that as well, yeah? You've got to that social event and it's kind of like, oh, well, I've done all that during the week to kind of make an allowance for it, but it's still not going to be enough to put me in that fat loss phase. Yeah. And again, if the expectation or managing your expectations afterwards is like, yeah, I'm well not losing fat this week. The issue comes from a coaching perspective is when you've done the calorie banking, increased your output, gone on a night out, had 10 Jaeger bombs, and then come to me and gone, yeah, but I've done what you said and I've not lost weight, Sam. And I'm like, all right, okay. Yeah. So it's still within reason, being mindful at the event. And I know for me personally, I've got really better at this as time's gone on. And you might be someone who's new to coaching and not really at this point yet. So it's like repetition, isn't it? I know for you, especially Alana, like you're in a position now where you're a lot more mindful, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah, I am. And I just think, yeah, all of the things we've been putting in place are really going to help me like at this time of year compared to this time last year,
Yeah.
going into like silly season. So yeah, I'm a lot more mindful. I'm a lot more disciplined. I have a lot more control mechanisms in place now. So it
And
doesn't fill
that,
me with anxiety and dread going into this period like it did this time last year.
yeah, and we're not just doing that from a fat loss perspective either, are we? Like, you're still able to enjoy those social occasions, if not more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
We're not waking up with beer fear. That's the worst.
Something I always do as well, something that I found is really helpful when I go out for a meal. So I do the things that you've just said. I don't have, if I was going to eat 3 meals on, say, if I'm going out for a meal on a Friday, I won't have those 3 meals. I might have like the equivalent of one and a half and stretch those meals out over three, or the same portion size. But then what I'll always do is I always make sure that there's water on the table, and I am consciously sipping water right the way throughout that meal. So number one is I don't get as drunk as quickly. Number two, as I'm staying hydrated. And number three, I'm actually filling myself up a little bit anyway, because a lot of the time hunger is thirst and it's confused in the brain. So I find that also, and I slow down. I'm really mindful when I go out for food. I chew my food really, really slowly, so that by the time it comes to puddings, even though I've already looked on the menu and chosen what I'm going to have for a pudding, by the time it actually comes, I'm like, oh, I'm actually not hungry for it now, and I don't feel deprived. So that's something I do all the time, and I find that really helps me personally.
So for you guys
I think
watching
I've
this
recently
back,
learned, Lisa, is like chewing your food more slowly and actually taking your time to actually enjoy your food. I've only
Yeah,
just learned to do.
yeah. But
That's
it's a
been
good
years.
one. It's a basic one, but it's a good
Yeah,
one, because I think sometimes when you go out for a meal and you're chatting and you just kind of like, troweling your food in, your brain hasn't got a chance to think about it. But if you're actually, pausing when you're listening to people, that's another
yeah.
thing. Pause and listen. Don't be chewing while it slows the whole process down. So less calories consumed, all good.
there we go.
Simple yet really effective.
Yeah, and that's something that we're definitely working on, isn't it, hon?
Yeah.
But just for the guys listening, like Lisa, you've been with me, what, 4 years now? So obviously that was an amazing tip. So when we're utilizing the group on WhatsApp, just bear in mind, guys, when you're asking questions to clients that have been through this for years and years and years with me as well. So don't feel like you can't ask questions to others, because you might be at the start of your journey now and you're just discovering all this. And you might be watching this back and thinking, wow, I'm so far away from that. But Lisa is actually a example of somebody who's been through it. She knows all the tips and tricks, which she's learned through coaching. And you're now in a body which you can maintain and be proud of all year round, right?
Yeah, all year round.
Yes.
And I think it's like it's different for everybody, isn't it? But I think on the coaching process, I feel like what you initially want is not what you end up with, because your goals change as you go on. Inevitably for everybody, I think it always starts as a physical goal and then it becomes something very, very different. Go through the coaching process, and I was always very physique driven, always have been, as you know. And then over the past 12 months, I'm not saying the physique's not important to me, because it is, and I wouldn't lie to say that, but there are many, many other things that are much more important to me now. That said, I know when I get to a point, I'm like, do you know what? I'm not quite as comfortable as I was. Let's just tighten it, which is what we do. And I think that's a really nice place to be in, to live your life. For those newer members in the group, I think this is a really nice place to achieve, or a nice place to strive to be.
Yeah. And we're not saying that we're perfect by any stretch of the imagination. We all have our own little bits that we need to work on. And I'm the same, and I'm your guys' coach. So it's nice to know that we're not perfect, but we all work together. We all have little bits of information that we can pick up on. So those are all insurance policies. But even if we put all of those into practice, if we've got a number of different social occasions coming up, let's be realistic, guys. We still might not, for certain weeks, achieve fat loss, all right? So, yes, it's how can I stay on track with my fat loss goal? But even when you do all of these things, you still might not achieve fat loss if you've got a number of different social occasions. So this leads me to this bit, all right? And I really want you to think about this one, okay? So short-term effects of social occasions, yeah, and how this can impact potentially your progress. The scale weight might increase. Tell me, Lisa, why might the scale weight increase?
Because you might have had higher sodium, so higher salt content, your body's going to retain some fluid. Your digestion will be different, probably consuming foods and drinks you don't normally consume, so your digestive system's going to have some inflammation there as well.
Yeah. Alana, why might your scale weight go up?
So body's overly stressed because you're sleep deprived, like you put there, we said water retention.
Yeah.
So the
Looking
fact
on the
that you
line,
will
why
be
are you
retaining.
calling me out? Why are you asking me questions? I'm not coming here again.
But it's like you said, it could also be not just the impact of the night, but it's the next day, isn't it? It's like you said, not having the meals prepped, so you're feeling
Yeah.
crap. Your hunger hormones have increased as well, especially if you've not had a good night's sleep. So you reach for things you wouldn't normally have. So it's
Yeah.
not the 6-7 hours you've been out, it's like the next 24 hours or the hangover period as well.
Yeah, so
So I
that
suppose
could be some of the effects. That isn't to say that that is definitely going to happen. Obviously, it will depend on what you do with your social occasion, and obviously, depending on what it is, speak with me direct. So this is just a broad overview, but I'm guessing leading into silly season that it's going to be a lot of food, and for some people, some alcohol as well. But the long-lasting effects of social occasions is that you're going to make some awesome memories, guys. So just be a little bit okay with the fact that sometimes going out is worth it. Yeah. If you want to actually be there, because that's a big thing as well. I think people say yes too often. If you actually want to be in that social occasion and weighing up everything that we've said so far within this, that it is worth your fat loss not happening that week, just enjoy that social occasion. Yeah. Because, oh, I've not come to that yet. Is it? No. Because it's consistency. It's what you do on the full 365 days of the year, which is going to make your results, not these little social occasions. And it's exactly the same with people going on holiday. We work too much. We work most of our life, yeah? So to worry too much about the odd bits of occasions or the odd bits of the year, obviously, if we go balls to the wall now, October to January, yes, there's going to be quite a lot of damage. But hopefully, you're in a coaching process that isn't going to happen. You're going to manage the social occasions, what you've got already planned in. You're only going to go to the ones that you actually want to be at. And you're just going to enjoy yourself and move on from it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms
Yeah,
of
definitely.
tips, like there might be some other bits that you can think of. So for us guys, it might be looking at the menu before you go out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I actually enjoy having the calories on the menus. There's like mixed feelings on that. Obviously, people who've had disordered eating before might disagree. But for most of the population, having a bit of an idea of what you're eating is a good thing, isn't it? Because you might go, all right, I want this main, this is this many calories approximately, because it's not accurate. So I'll only have this many drinks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's a good thing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So
Great.
looking at the menu,
Sorry.
go on, hon.
No, I was just going to say, I always think as well, like the tomato-based sauces tend to always be lower calories and things like that. So there's always, I always tend to find if you're in a good mood when you go out and you're in quite high spirits, sometimes I think sometimes you don't make good decisions. So I always study the menu as well before I go out. So when the menus come, I very rarely even glance at the menu anymore. I already made my decision, and I find that really helps. But that has taken me years to get to that point, that level of discipline where I'm like, no, I've chosen that. That's what I'm going to have, and that's what I'm going to stick to. So I deliberately, if they give me a menu, I turn it over. I don't even look at it a lot of the time now. I've studied it in advance because I don't want to then go, oh, actually, that's another 1,000 calories more than I was going to have. You know what? I'm just going to have it. Sod it, especially if you've had a drink.
And for most of us as well, who are flexibly dieting, there shouldn't really be anyone who listens to this who's on a set meal plan because we don't really do that unless it's required. You shouldn't feel over restricted going into a social occasion anyway. So it's kind of just like, yeah, it might not be where you can control everything, but the type of foods that you're choosing, they're not all on a pedestal. It's not like you've restricted that out of your life for so long that you need to really go over the top anyway. And without getting too deep, because that's not what this call is about, sometimes we need to remember what a social occasion is actually for. It's spending time with people and it's being sociable. So if you're centering your social occasion around something which is the food or the alcohol, sometimes the actual issue is coming back to remembering that you're there to actually just spend time with people rather than just getting absolutely bottled and and just eating until your heart's content. But anyway, that's me getting a little bit off tangent. So what
From a personal perspective, though, I think also what I've learned since being with SME is actually, you know, there's no bad food choice. This is actually having a varied diet. So then when I'm going out for social occasions, it doesn't feel like I'm having to have a cheap meal or
Yeah.
something, or I've deprived myself of all these meals. So I just think you naturally make better food choices. You don't feel like you need to gorge on crap food when you're going out anymore. So I think that's, you know, something else that I've learned through our journey is just about, you know, having that varied diet. It's, you know, not restricting myself in terms of what I eat, you know, making sure that if I want a bit of chocolate, I'm having that bit of chocolate. And I think all of that combined means that when I am going out, it is, I'm not going balls deep. I am just going out, making sensible choices and being a bit more mindful about what I'm doing.
Love that. Get that on social media.
I don't do social media.
No, but for anybody watching this who's potentially at the beginning of their journey and can resonate with what Alana said, so a lot of people do think about good and bad foods and cheat meals, and this terminology can be quite destructive, but you can come out of it at the other side. So just trust the process. Communicate with me, and you will definitely, in a couple of months' time, be in a far better position. So what I thought would be quite cool is, because I knew that I was doing this subject, is pull little bits out of people's check-ins. Now, the people who I'm putting on already know that I'm putting these bits on, but I think it will be interesting to dissect like their comments and what the expectation would be, okay? So I won't say who it is. It's not one of you guys, don't worry. Or maybe it is, who knows? So this was from today. And this client put on one of her wins was that she had some good social time, but didn't eat out. So instead, she invited people round to hers so that she was more in control of calories and made the food in and overestimated the calories that she put into a MyFitnessPal. So as a expectation, with those kind of considerations and adjustments that she'd make, would you say that fat loss could be an expectation with that?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that, because fat loss is her goal? I'll just let you know that first. So fat loss is definitely the goal right now. Do you think that is like an over restrictive way of doing things? Do you think she's missing out on anything there?
Personally, the thing that was going through my mind when I read that is I would take that that's somebody that's quite in the early stages of their journey, and their priority is really high for fat loss at the moment. And you've said this to me many, many times over the years. Sometimes you have to prioritize what your goal is, and that will mean an element of sacrifice, and you have to be prepared to decide where you want to make those sacrifices. And I think, depending on what that person's goal is at the time, she's obviously ready to make them sacrifices. So good on her or him, whoever it is. I think over a period of time that priorities can change, etc. Personally, I wouldn't do that, because I'm at that stage where I want to be out and I want to be in a different environment and things. But I've absolutely been in that position, and there's absolutely a place for it.
Yeah. So just to give you a little bit of context on this client, again, you won't know it is by saying this, but we did go through, again, she is quite new to the coaching process. So yes, for spotting that. We did go through a period of weeks where fat loss wasn't occurring because of too many meals out. So she's taking it upon herself to still enjoy that social time, but instead of doing that in an environment where she can't really control the calories in versus calories out, while we're building that education around food and food choices, it's like she's still having fun, but instead she's choosing to do it at home. And definitely
Which is,
fat loss could be an expectation with that.
yeah.
Right, next one. This is a final one, and then I'll let you girls go. So this one, it's a bit of a lengthy one. I'll read it out, and this client won't mind me saying this because she is a social butterfly. So listen to this one. I was quite jealous, to be fair. Had a really good week with food, but the weekend has been a bit of a write-off. Friday, I had Peter Kay and had to drive straight there after work, so I had to buy something to eat in the arena. Saturday, I had a bottomless brunch for my friend's birthday, but I didn't eat it. I didn't eat before it, and I chose chicken skewer as a meal, to save as many calories as possible for the drinks. I was going to have, for the drinks I was going to have on Sunday. I was out for breakfast with Danny's family, but I didn't really eat much for the rest of the day due to feeling fragile. Haven't been able to really calorie count Saturday and Sunday, but I've tried to save calories within the week to make up for it. So first thing is, do you think fat loss would be an expectation based on that, or should be an expectation
No,
for that
No.
week?
no.
Absolutely not. And let me just caveat this by saying this client is not in a fat loss goal at the moment, all right? So that's cool. But if it was, we can see that there's going to be a couple of issues there, isn't there?
So there's too many unknown variables, isn't there? It's like you said, if you were going to reduce your, if you were in a fat loss phase and you were looking for fat loss, you'd want to try to maintain that deficit by way of reducing the calories 150 or 200 a day, or by increasing your output. There's a lots of kind of like variables. And to be fair, that sounds like life, doesn't it? Because we all have weeks like that where we have life, and sometimes with all the best planning and preparation. And again, it comes back to what you said early on about what your expectation is at the end of that. So if his, well, I presume it's her expectation isn't fat loss, then that's kind of like one of those weeks. Yeah.
And
Sounds like
coming
a
back to that,
pretty awesome weekend, though.
yeah, I was well jealous.
It does sound pretty
This
fabulous.
client, just to give you a bit of context, even within the fat loss journey, had many, many weekends like this. It's just that
Yeah.
the expectation was the fat loss goal was going to take a lot longer. All right. So if you're at the beginning of your coaching journey and you're like, right, I want to lose the maximum amount of body fat in the next 10 weeks, because it's about 10 weeks now till the new year, obviously, it's not going to be the case. But you then come with weeks like this, it's setting that expectation again. So it's cool to have weekends like this. Everybody's going to have weekends like this. But the expectation on a week like this is that for the next week or the next 2 weeks is that you're probably going to be getting back into that fat loss phase again. And that's fine. The good thing and the things that I wanted to pick up on this is that you can tell that she's been coached with me for a while is because she had a chicken skewer as a meal. So I was centering that meal around protein when it could have gone a lot worse. She didn't eat before it, so she was calorie banking. I say that she was calorie banking on the Saturday, but she was hungover, so that's the reason she didn't eat. So maybe that's a win. And then she saved calories in the week leading up to that. All right. So from a preparation perspective, she's kind of done everything within her power, and she's in a maintenance phase at the moment. So it's probably for her leveled out. Yeah. So I thought it was quite cool to share those two different ends of the spectrum there.
It gives perspective as well, though, doesn't it? Because you get caught up in your own lifestyle. And it's when you look at other people's examples and then you do this and then you ask and you kind of dissect it, and then you can apply that to your own week, and then can't you, and kind of go, well, actually, if I do want to push this week, then I'm going to have to make sure I do X, Y, and Z and try and control the variables as much as possible. So I found that very interesting, actually. That's very useful. That's
where they're saying, like, you can't have your cake and eat it comes into it, doesn't it? Quite on topic. Like, there's got to be a bit of give and take. It can't just be like take. There is that give and take. So yeah, definitely useful for a lot of people, I feel. So there's some bits in there that you can take away. I'll do these every week, guys. So hit us up with questions that you might have after watching this. Feel free to ask Alana and Lisa, because obviously they know loads based on after this call.
Yeah, don't hesitate to reach out, ask a question.
Yeah, especially on a live Zoom, so Alana put under pressure.
But yeah, no, thanks for asking the question, Lisa. It was really good session. So thank you.
No problem. We'll do it every week, guys. So yeah, well done, and let's crack on now. Never miss a Monday.
Have a good week.
See you guys.
Okay, bye, 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 bye.